Andrew Johnson, the 17th President of the United States, is perhaps best remembered for the tumultuous circumstances of his presidency, which occurred during the Reconstruction era following the American Civil War. His leadership was marked by fierce political battles, sharp controversies, and a legacy of impeachment, making him one of the most divisive figures in American history. Andrew Johnson was born on December 29, 1808, in Raleigh, North Carolina, to poor parents. His father, Jacob Johnson, died when Andrew was just 3 years old, leaving the family in poverty. Johnson never received formal education, but was apprenticed to a tailor at a young age. His early life was marked by hardship, and his self-taught education was limited but reflected his ambition and drive. In 1827, Johnson moved to Greenville, Tennessee, where he became a successful tailor. His rising fortunes allowed him to enter local politics, and he was elected mayor of Greenville in 1834. Over the next few decades, Johnson's political career advanced rapidly. He served in the Tennessee state legislature and later as a U.S. congressman, 1843 to 1853. A staunch advocate for the common man, Johnson was a member of the Democratic Party, but he was often at odds with its leadership, particularly over issues like slavery and states' rights. In the 1850s, Johnson's political views began to evolve. He opposed the expansion of slavery into new territories but did not seek its immediate abolition. His staunch Unionist stance set him apart from many Southern leaders in the years leading up to the Civil War. When Tennessee seceded from the Union in 1861, Johnson, then governor of the state, remained loyal to the United States, becoming one of the few Southern politicians to oppose secession. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln appointed Johnson as military governor of Tennessee, where he worked to restore Union authority. His effectiveness in this role and his unwavering loyalty to the Union gained him national recognition. In 1864, Lincoln selected Johnson as his vice presidential running mate, partly to appeal to the Southern Unionists and to strengthen the political coalition supporting the Union war effort. Johnson ascended to the presidency on April 15, 1865, following Lincoln's assassination. Johnson, a Southern Democrat and former slave owner, was now tasked with leading a fractured nation through the most difficult period in American history, the aftermath of the Civil War. Johnson's approach to Reconstruction, the process of reintegrating the Southern states into the Union, was deeply controversial. He adopted a lenient policy toward the South, offering amnesty and pardon to most former Confederates who swore allegiance to the Union. Johnson's plan also allowed Southern states to re-establish their governments without significant changes to their pre-war social structures, including the continuation of black codes, laws that restricted the rights of freed African Americans. His leniency alienated many Republicans, particularly the radical Republicans, who believed that the South should face more severe consequences for its rebellion and that civil rights for freed slaves should be guaranteed. In contrast, Johnson believed in limited federal intervention in state affairs and sought to quickly restore the Union without significant social reforms. The conflict between Johnson and Congress reached its peak over his veto of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, a law designed to protect the rights of African Americans. Johnson argued that the bill exceeded the constitutional powers of the federal government. Congress overrode his veto, but Johnson continued to challenge congressional authority. This struggle culminated in his impeachment. In 1867, Johnson defied the Tenure of Office Act, a law passed by Congress that restricted the president's power to remove certain office holders without Senate approval. Johnson dismissed Edwin M. Stanton, the Secretary of War, and attempted to replace him with Lorenzo Thomas. This move was seen as a violation of the law, and in 1868, the House of Representatives voted to impeach Johnson. The Senate trial that followed was a spectacle. Johnson narrowly avoided removal from office by one vote. Though he remained president, his authority was significantly diminished. His relationship with Congress was irreparably damaged, and his political influence waned as the radical Republicans took control of Reconstruction efforts. After leaving the White House in 1869, Johnson retired to his farm in Tennessee. Although he had been a deeply unpopular president, he remained active in politics. In 1875, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, becoming the only former president to serve in the Senate. However, his time in the Senate was brief. He died on July 31, 1875, at the age of 66. Andrew Johnson's presidency remains one of the most controversial in American history. His lenient policies toward the South during Reconstruction and his resistance to civil rights legislation led to widespread criticism. His impeachment, though he was acquitted, left a lasting mark on his legacy. Critics argue that his failure to champion civil rights and his unwillingness to stand firm against Southern resistance prolonged the nation's struggles with racial inequality and delayed the full integration of African Americans into American society. On the other hand, some historians have recognized Johnson's dedication to preserving the Union and his efforts to prevent further bloodshed after the Civil War. His rise from humble beginnings to the presidency symbolizes the potential for social mobility in America. However, the limitations of his vision for Reconstruction and his clashes with Congress left him with a tarnished reputation. Ultimately, Johnson's presidency was defined by his struggle with Congress and his inability to navigate the delicate political landscape of post-Civil War America. His tenure in office remains a study in the challenges of leadership in a deeply divided nation and the complexities of balancing reconciliation with justice.